Business Studies Lesson 5. Today this lesson is going to be looking at the internal influences on a business. This is defined in your textbook as those influences that have been controlled and changed by the business. For example, these include your product mix, what you are selling and what market you're selling it to, your location, where your business is operating from, or where your services are being sold to, the type of management, the people involved in the type of structure you use, resource management, which includes the use of your technology or the use of your factory or your workers, a number of different type of resources, and lastly, but probably most importantly, the business culture. Looking at product influences, a business can control the type of products that they sell. The type of goods and services about business sales will affect the size and structure of the business. For example, a small web trading organisation probably only needs 1 or 2 employees, but a large manufacturing enterprise selling throughout the world will need much larger structures and supply chain, which makes the business much larger. For example, large sizes and ranges need warehousing and logistics, or some services can be contracted directly. The business type will be influenced by what the business sells, ranging from small office, home office organisations selling just services into a local market, rather through to the complex corporate structures of major corporates. An example given is like the airline like Qantas, which has several sub-companies supplying different services, including terminal services, including catering services or engineering services, as well as ticketing and frequent flyer services. The size of the business also typically changes as the product mix that the company is selling alters. The more products, typically the larger the size of the company. Second influence is location. A good equation to remember is that a prime location is one that couples both customer convenience, for example, ease of access and parking, versus visibility. A prime location does not necessarily occur when you've got a very visible business but no one can stop in their transit to actually go in and buy your products, or you don't have a web presence. Typically real estate agents will charge a lot more for businesses in a prime location. In our local market in the town of Bowral, for example, there's a certain section of the main street where the real estate prices are much higher because they're located next to some of the other key businesses. Location factors, basically. Things that influence the location factors include the visibility of the business. Is there signage available? Is it visible from the main street? Is it visible to foot traffic as well as car traffic? Is there proximity to support services? It might well be in a fantastic area that's easy to get to, but if there's no other business around, people are unlikely, or customers are unlikely to travel into town to do one thing. They tend to like to be able to go and do some shopping as well as banking, get lunch, have cafes, things like that. The cost factor involved in the business. Typically, the better the location, the higher it costs. So businesses need to weigh up how much they can expect to earn from the business they're running versus how much they're going to pay. If they're in a very low margin business, having a prime location is probably not going to work out for them. Proximity customers, if you're selling directly to people who rely on coming to walking the shop front, having a shop in the middle of nowhere where people have to travel a long way to get to is going to impact upon your business. And secondarily, a proximity to suppliers. If you're selling large ticket items that involve a large amount of transport costs, having them on the other side of the country from your supplier can influence your business in a negative way. There are 4 types of resources that businesses can draw on that have been influenced how the internal structure runs. These are listed in order as human resources, i.e. the people that work for you, your staff, your managers. Your information resources, which is basically a lot of your IT, as well as your research and your keeping track of your marketing data, where you're selling to, what type of things do your customers buy, their satisfaction, all that type of stuff. Your physical resources is typically things like your plant or your shop, the stuff that you make your products with in the locations that you sell them to. And lastly, the financial resources is your ease to market capital, your cash flow, your ability to weather out differences in your market. Management influences, a couple of things is depending on your management structure. The more common way to manage businesses in the modern world is to use a flat management structure, which has fewer levels of management than traditional structure, allows you to streamline decisions and makes business more responsive to micro changes in the market. This is particularly useful in the internet connected world where things change very rapidly. Management needs to be able to respond to these changes very quickly. Furthermore, flat management structures have the further advantage that they empower employees to get involved in the decision making rather than the traditional hierarchical structures where employees had a very specific role and managing was left to managers at various levels and workers got on with working. This is typically described as the autocratic or centralized management model of the traditional management structure where workers had little ability to influence decisions. Lastly, a thing that businesses now really need to focus on is the culture of the business. All businesses do have a culture. Some have it imposed from above, but the most successful typically develop it organically, getting all their staff members to buy into it and help set up the culture and help to change it and deliver it. A business culture is made up of the values that the business adheres to, any symbols that it uses, such as your logos or slogans that you use define your service standards, for example, rituals, rites and celebrations, how you go out and celebrate success and reward people. And basically most businesses have a champion or champions of culture who make sure that the rest of the organization is adhering to the culture that they've tried to develop. Good managers have a very strong role in developing culture. And first of all, they live and reflect the culture. So basically, it's no good having a business that has a defined culture and the managers don't reflect that or don't live it themselves. They're not leading that culture. They're basically trying to impose it. Good managers will train others in the values of the company. It's how people develop their culture and how the new staff get to it, because the managers are training people on what the culture is about, what are the ethics of the organization, how people get on with each other. Furthermore, good managers also empower others to drive the culture. It's not just top-down, imposed by management, but basically get other people to buy into it. And the ideal way is to have your staff, once they're bought into it, to instill that culture within other new members.